What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the St. Vitus basement after wrapping up an awesome interview with Stryker, and now we are here with James of the Almighty Holy Grail. Thank you for your time, man.
Hey, thanks, Alex.
Yeah. It's so awesome to have you here. Times of Pride and Peril is still your latest record. It's about 3 years old now. Do you just want to give a rundown on how the record cycle for it has been with it and everything?
Yeah, I mean, when the record came out, it didn't really get much attention from the label or from. It did a little bit of press and media, but we kind of didn't push it as hard as we hoped we could have, and we took a bit of a hiatus, and the guys went off to do stuff with their other band, Huntress. And then right now we're just kind of like regrouping our song ideas together. We have about an album's worth of material, but really those 3 years were just kind of like a standstill for the band.
Okay. And I know that you are kind of working on new music now, but now that you guys are back together and touring everything, does it feel kind of like a fresh start for the band or just kind of continuing on?
It's a mixture of the two. It feels like we're continuing on, but also a bit of a fresh start since we technically have fulfilled our contract with our label, so we're kind of free agents right now and kind of exploring that territory if we want to self-release some stuff before we sign with another label, or just kind of self-release stuff and then just continue self-releasing, because I know Stryker's been doing that their last 3 records. So it's kind of an exciting time to just kind of explore new possibilities.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're working on some new music now. Are you planning to maybe make a direct follow-up to Times of Pride and Peril, or do you think that this new record's going to kind of stand out?
I wouldn't say it's a direct follow-up to Pride and Peril, but I guess it's just another album. Nothing intentionally correlating with the last record, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Do you have a formula with each album that you stick with, or do you like to experiment and make a new approach to every album?
It's kind of a case by case. We don't really have a formula we stick to. Yeah.
So there's a lot of improvising involved in the songwriting process?
I wouldn't say there's improvising in the songwriting process, but in terms of the concept for an album, that's kind of it's never set in stone. But our song ideas come from the 3 different writers, the 2 guitarists, Alex, Eli, and myself, and so we kind of put together a group of songs that best fits, would fill out 45 to 60 minutes of music, and then kind of cut it back from there and add in little guitar interludes and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're working through right now. Is we have a lot of songs and stuff that we didn't put on the last 2 records as well on top of that. So we're just kind of sitting on a bunch of material, and we have some new songs that we're going to try out tonight that we have slated to release it on an upcoming EP.
Now, with Holy Grail, is there kind of a certain concept or subject matter that the vocals have an influence on the music itself, or are lyrics and vocals just completely secondary?
What was the first half of your question?
If there's a certain concept that follows the realm of Holy Grail.
Yeah, there's not a dead set concept, because we kind of run the gamut on different lyrical topics, but it does tend to go between kind of heavy metal subjects, kind of classic heavy metal, where it'll be about demons and darkness and suicide and battles and stuff like that, but we kind of tie in a lot of just life experience kind of stuff in there as well, little quotes and tidbits from life experiences that we pull from.
Do you like to leave the music open to interpretation for your listeners, or do you like to try to engage them in a certain story or subject matter to have them see things from your point of view?
I think leaving things open to interpretation is my personal preference, just because it it makes it less like, yeah, it, like the telling the story. We've tried it before. It didn't quite work out as well, and we're not as good as like Blind Guardian is at doing that stuff like that. So, but I think it feels more like poetic in a sense to like kind of leave it open to interpretation more.
And now having members from Huntress, doing Huntress and then coming back to Holy Grail, did maybe them experimenting with another project help further bring in some new stuff to Holy Grail as well?
I think it did, definitely did. Just to kind of like spread your wings a bit and try different things for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, Jill, may she rest in peace, has like a different like vocal style, I would say, than what you have. So I mean, I'd imagine that them kind of like have to adjusting their style to fit that, and then coming back in can, help enhance the skill, right?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Yeah. And the final question I'd like to ask you is when you're playing material live, do you try to execute the material exactly how people are hearing it on the album, or do you like to maybe change things up to make the live presence a little bit different?
Like for instance, on this set we're doing this tour, we kind of changed a few things up, like intros to songs. We kind of like tweaked them a bit, and we do try and keep the songs themselves to what it's like on the record, but without like backing tracks and big production value. We kind of, it sounds a little bit more raw, I think, and a little more like rock and roll in a sense. So personally, like some of my vocal lines, I'll just have more fun with it and like kind of play around with like inflections or like adding a little blues run to like the end of a verse or like the end of a bridge or chorus, and just kind of like ad lib a few parts here and there. So we do a little bit of that, but I'd say it's still like 95% what you hear on the record.
I think you have the best of both worlds. People know what song you're playing, but it's not just like a rehash or anything like that.
Yeah.
So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on. Heavy New York, it's going to be an awesome show tonight. Is there just anything else you would like to promote in terms of tours or new music?
Right now, it's just kind of like thanks for coming out to the shows, and keep an eye out for our upcoming EP. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Everybody, we are here with Holy Grail. Pick up Times of Pride and Peril if you haven't already these past 3 years. New music coming very soon. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.